Quick question. Are you ripe to unleash your feminine power in your business? Are you willing to see how that power elevates your speaker presence and your ability to navigate the inevitable challenges that come up as a leader? I suspect that by the end of this episode, you are going to give me a resounding yes. So much is about to come through to your awareness that was laying dormant inside of you. You are about to be surprised and delighted by the fascinating intersection of eroticism and leadership. You're going to learn how personal dynamics and sensual experiences shape your business. You do not want to miss this one, and you especially want to listen through all the way to the end. There is so much in store for you. You are now entering the realm of white hot business. This is where you plug the leaks in your bedroom, relationships, and intimacy so that you can master the power dynamics in business and leadership. Know that what happens behind closed doors is being mirrored or projected into your business. There's always a connection. I'm your host, sexologist and power dynamics mentor, Lauren White, and I'll guide you to become the woman that's available for more of what she wants and desires simply by delving into the uncharted waters of your voice, erotic body, and shadows. Access all areas. It's time to revolutionize your business and bedroom from lukewarm to white hot. I am honored to have with me today a learner leader that I've physically and virtually danced with over the last 10 years. She is a teacher and creator on the Feminine Erotic Mysteries with more than 15 years experience in the field. Her work is rooted in the practice of neo-tantra, mythosomatics, archetypal dance, and depth inquiry. She guides people to inhabit their bodies, unraveling and awakening to the mystical force within. She transmits a rich opening towards the embrace of deep body wisdoms, creating online courses, retreats, and working in private practice. Supporting women to step into their own unique signature leadership, she is a dedicated practitioner with a learning leader style of teaching. In my eyes, she is a thought leader, yes, but truly she's more than that. She is an embodied leader. And as such, I had to extend an invitation to her to be on the podcast. Shaney Marie, a warm, deep, and lush welcome to White Hot Business.
Thanks for having me. That was quite an introduction.
I always like to add some. Everyone sends their bios, and I like, just want to decorate it a little bit.
Nice.
It's my Venus in Libra at play. I would like to invite you to cast your mind back to when we first met. And I'm wondering, before I share, do you have a memory of when we first met in person?
I think my memory just goes straight back to being in a dark room with other women, and there being a lot of eros in the field, and you being there, and just like, that liminal seductive space that is invoked through feminine embodiment work.
Yes.
That's where I kind of see you.
Yes. Yeah. I have some very beautiful and distinct memories of you. I first met you when I was 10 months postpartum in 2015, and I made a call to go to the Dancing Eros retreat, which was 6 days, 6 nights, I should say, 6 days, 6 nights. And I just remember connecting with you and just being absolutely mesmerized by your presence and by the way that you moved and the way that you held yourself and the way that you co-facilitated, and a very distinct memory of the slut dance by the pool, which won't make sense to anyone listening, but that's all I can say. We did a slut dance by the pool and you were waiting at the end of our slut runway and I danced right up to you and it's like you were there cheering. This new mom going, can I be a slut? Yes, I can be a slut. It was just so beautiful. And I have really warm memories of that time. And since that time, I've watched your evolution. But when I say the word evolution, it doesn't quite feel right. With you, it's always a deepening. And that's something I always admire about you. Just what's it like to hear, for the last 10 years, to hear that back, how you've evolved and simultaneously deepened in yourself and your work?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Who was I back then? Who was I and who have I become? Um, it's such a curious journey. You know, I'm so committed to this path of self-actualizing through
Mhm.
the erotic arts. It's something that's really like juicy for me. It's inspiring. It's exciting when I feel aligned to, oh, like, where am I growing? Where am I learning? Where am I deepening? Where am I expanding? I feel like I have something to live for. And when I'm not doing those things and my energy is stagnant, I don't really understand what the point of my life is. So I'm like so like gung ho committed to
Yes.
self-actualizing and awakening and deepening my ability to like really be with myself and stay with myself and feel myself and learn how to really listen to the deeper intelligence that lives inside me. So I think that from back then, the time that you described, to now, I think you're right. And then I'm like, Jesus Christ, how deep can it go? Like,
How deep
like,
can it
it's
go?
like- so I'm like, where am I going to pop out? Like, just like, you know, because this like process, I'm so committed to this deepening. Like, where else am I? Where am
Yeah.
I going in here? Like, what is happening? It's kind of terrifying. Terrifying. I think also the journey of maturing as a woman
Mm.
with a very strong gaze upon yourself in that
Mhm.
process, like really witnessing the process of maturing and all the different initiations you go through. And the way I connected to my sexuality back then was much more kind of flippant, maybe, or like more kind of maybe a little bit detached in many ways
Mm.
as well, compared to where I'm at now, where everything like is like a medicine journey. That's what it feels like.
Mm.
It's like, oh my God, like I have an experience, like I just had a weekend with another woman and it was like I don't know, like a lifetime and a weekend, and we traversed all these different layers, and I'm like, and pop out, and I'm like, oh my God, that was just like a medicine journey. Like relating has become these spaces where it's like, there's so much intensity,
Yeah.
beauty, and amazing, but like the kind of quantum leaps that are happening for me in the way that I am meeting people
Yeah.
and journeying with those people or those experiences, whether it's a micro experience or a really big one. I feel there's like this rapid pace that's churning me. And I think that's also coming from having turned towards, like really turning towards my life experience, where it's,
Mm.
you know, in the past, like the detachment kind of had one foot in, one foot out. There was not as much presence, embodied presence in my experience, because it's taken and it continues to take an ability to expand my capacity to be with myself. And the more I expand my capacity to be with myself, the more time is like becoming richer.
Yes.
And everything is like, yeah, just intense, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm learning how to be with the pressure and the intensity of my life more.
Yeah.
Sure.
And do you find as you mature, are you finding that you're receiving more enjoyment and pleasure from that?
Absolutely. There's just like an undercurrent of joy always. Like, it's amazing. It's just, I might be experiencing grief and pain and frustration or whatever, all these like layers up here, but it's not difficult to drop and just like tap the joy.
Yeah.
It's just bubbling always. And I think that's really fascinating to me around like the ways that we identify with our feelings or the ways that we identify, with our experiences. So if I identify with my frustration, then I could, if I over-identify with it, then I would more likely lose touch with the baseline that is my joy body.
Yes.
So I'm just really presencing often, oh, my joy body is still here. Oh yeah, I'm suffering right now. My heart's in pain, but I can still go to my friend's house and be in hysterical laughter.
Yeah.
I had this experience recently where I was like journeying some heartbreak, and I went to my friend's house sitting in this home that has 2 swings in the living room. I go over there and I'm like a broken bird. I'm like, and then we're like swinging on the swing, and I'm like crying and laughing and crying and laughing as I'm like talking through like my pain. It's like, and it's like, wow, like this gets to be joyful. This gets to be fully expressed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It doesn't have to be, it can be intense, but also there can be play in the intensity.
Yeah. How has all of that experiencing that you just spoke into, how is that influencing your work these days?
Well, I feel more seated in myself. Like I feel okay with me, who I am. And I think that also translates to really being able to hold space for other women. So everything that people bring me, I can meet. Like I can sit with them in it. And this is the interesting piece, because I haven't had this happen often, but I had a really bad experience with a client recently. And it's very rare. It's really me. And what was interesting, like this person had all sorts of stuff going on. I don't need to go into that, but it was interesting for me in the sense of I maintained this availability in myself to be like, so there was abuse coming at me, and I was like, I could just see like the pain of where the abuse was coming from, but I could still see the essence of the person and how willing I was, clear with my boundaries, but willing I was to be like, when you're ready, if ever, if not, that's okay. But when there's availability and you want to lean into repair here, I'm here for it. Right. And I think that's a testament to all the work I've been doing as well, that I'm not reacting and pushing back. I did have to put in a firm boundary by the end of it, but I was really amazed at my own process around, like I'm available for the changing nature of relating in any type of relationship, be it a client relationship, a lover relationship, family relationship. If people are willing to lean in for repair work, I'll go there with you. And I think that's really where our humanity needs to be going. There's so much like in this kind of cancel culture. The world of like, oh, just cut them out, or that person fucked you over, or they treated you badly, or they did. And it's like cut. And I don't think that's a really great belief system. I think that maybe we should be pointing our attention more to, I'm available to do repair work here.
Yes.
If I have capacity, but
yes,
or I might have capacity, but there's always like growth.
Yeah.
Always growth in every relationship if we want to lean in. So going back to, I'm leaning into my life, I'm leaning into the relationships, I'm leaning into the dissonance, I'm leaning, and I feel like this process is speeding up my own evolutionary kind of awakening, even though it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to be with. So me being able to be with those parts is allowing me to hold space for others to be with the bigness of their journey as well.
Yes. Yeah. And there's something in what you're saying where I'm hearing when you fully lean back, go all in on your stuff, and it could be long and slow and even arduous at times and deeply testing, it speeds up the precision and the efficacy with which you can hold in your own work. It's like the slow down to speed up. And I was just wondering if that resonated for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think that the word precision,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, when we're leaning in and facing things, there's less kind of convoluted confusion.
Yep.
Because we're meeting life. And so then when experiences or when our own intuition kicks off, or I don't know, something's happening, there's more of a precision in what I need to do. Because I'm present to life. I'm not over here looking over here and being like, oh, I don't want to do it. And I'm kind of huffing. Like it's like, oh, it's all this kind of mess. Oh, there's so many options. It's like, oh no, this is where I am.
Yeah.
Okay. And the precision can come from that place. Yeah, I guess like the precision can only come from our full meeting of what is. Right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Yeah. You've navigated growing such a beautiful business that has been subjected to what is unjust censorship in the past, especially. The most notable period being when you were locked out of Facebook for a period of weeks or months, even, if memory serves. And I was wondering if you could cast your mind back to that period and remember, what did you learn, and what did that time reveal to you about yourself, about the ways that you do business? Did that period shift anything in your business and the way that you do things?
Yeah, well, I mean, a big part of my success in my business, to really like stand in my business and kind of stand out in some ways, has been through my rebellious spirit.
Yeah.
And that's amazing and it serves a certain part, but there comes a point where my rebellious spirit starts to self-sabotage. And what I've learned from, and I continue to learn from being shadow banned, locked out of Facebook and all of these things, posts taken down, is that mature me has to really learn how to work within the systems that are available. And as frustrating as my rebel self gets about that, the injustices of it, and, you know, like recently I had some posts flagged for using words erotic, speaking about vibrators. Not great. Delightful sensuality was a word. Like all of these words were getting flagged, and I've been such a good girl. I've been such a good girl in how I'm showing up online. You know, if anyone watches my dance videos, like I never touch my breasts. I always come down the center. I'm like, and other people do videos and they're like, oh, that's, you know, very provocative. And I'm like, no, I'm very like crafty with how I'm bringing things forward, so I can still bring these parts of me without it being too overt.
Yes. Yeah.
I have resistance to the wording, you know, having to change wording like sexuality. It's so hard.
Is there anything less erotic than seeing the word segs, which looks like eggs? Is there anything less erotic? I just see it and go. We've got to get craftier than that. It's called Get Crafty.
My mind is now going to that story of the eye. It's like one of the original eroticas from like the 1800s or something. Have you ever read it?
No.
It's so twisted. It's the most twisted. It was like this French author, and anyway. And
sorry. Yes, I have. Yes.
And they put the eggs. And
we want to move beyond that. We want to go deeper than that. But it's inherently frustrating. It is inherently frustrating navigating public forums with anything that references sexuality, sensuality, eroticism.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I mean, I feel like I've been doing pretty well to stay with it, and most of that's coming from like have gratitude as well.
Yeah.
Like this is what the world is. This is what is.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. I love Instagram.
Yeah,
I love it. Like I just did a course and I was offline for a week, and when I came back online, I was like, all the memes and all the things. I was like, I love this platform. It's so brilliant. And then having like gratitude for these things as well. Oh, look at, I get to run my business on this free platform.
Yeah.
So incredible. But I just have to be very creative in how I'm doing things now. And I don't really have the energy to keep fighting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It's tiring. And I feel like I'm ready to start serving bigger now. Like I've been on a bit of a hiatus the last few years, just my own like personal churning and getting clear on relating. And so I feel like I kind of slipped back a bit. And I'm ready to like really step forward again. Like people have been trying to get me on podcasts for years and I just kept ghosting and like, I just my system just wasn't at, and I've done 3 in 3 weeks or something now. So my system feels ready for this kind of next level of my work.
Yeah.
And I have to be aware of my preservation of my energy and what's worth fighting for and what's not.
Yes. Yeah. Selective and discerning. This is where I'm with you. I think when I think about the privilege of sitting in my bed with my dogs on my lap and my kids running around and being able to broadcast to the world from my bed and how my ancestors would have loved that opportunity to do something like that. I am with you. I choose the battles with what I say online and know that when we're in private spaces, this is where we can really unleash the truth of our work. And in many ways, that's a beautiful thing because it keeps that sense of sacredness and sanctity to what it is that we do and what transformations naturally occur when people are in the same room together or even on a private Zoom call together. So I'm with you. Pick and choose the battles. Do what you can with what's available and let everything be seen, heard, and felt in those private spaces, which is where the real work is. That's the real work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing, like I would love to have a family. And if I'm just going to be this like rebel seductress forever, it's like, it kind of feels like it's not really the frequency that's going to call in this like this other part of my life. So I also need to be aware of what archetypes I'm working with at what point in my life and how I am using my energy to really serve like what it is my heart really longs for now for this time in my life and what's wasting my energy. Wow,
You just mentioned archetypes. Can you share with us what archetypes you are primarily working with at the moment in your work?
Well, I have 2 feminine archetypes that are my dominant energies that I work with, which is more the seductress. So that I work with, like behind me is Cersei, and she's like the witch seductress who turns her rapists into pigs and works with pharmacas and like the herb and is a magic maker, herbal witch. And I really love her. I love her historically because she has deep roots in like ancient feminine mysteries, fertility goddess, this kind of magnetic woman, but she's more of a sun goddess than a moon goddess. So I have her on my altar, and I've been thinking a lot like, okay, do I need to change my archetypes now? I do work with Lakshmi because I have Venus in the 12th house, so I've been assigned to work with Lakshmi to kind of bring out my Venus and Virgo in the 12th house, bring out the qualities that are actually more radiant because my Venus is in the graveyard. So that's, or the asylum or the ashram, like it's in the invisible kind of realms. I have this running joke where I'm like, basically my soulmate's a ghost. So I work with Lakshmi as an abundance kind of energy to bring forth this radiance. But one of the reasons I'm still committed to working with the seductress energy is I want to write this book. I want to write this book about the temptress and
pre-order.
Yeah. And it's like, it's here. Like it's so present. It's just a matter of me putting action in. And it feels like a really big, important piece of work. And I feel like I need to get it out of me so
Mm.
that I can move on to maybe a more mother goddess energy or something, like something to like, yeah, more nurturing perhaps, more just different, not to abandon the other parts, but just so,
Mm.
because I work so deeply with archetypes, I know how they work me.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so I want to write this book as a service to humanity, because I think that there's just so much misunderstanding around, and glorification as well, like glorification, misunderstanding, shaming of female seduction, female temptation.
Oh,
Um,
agreed. Yeah.
yeah, and the ways that it actually serves the process of awakening
Yes.
in so many dimensions,
Yeah.
and also the way it serves us to teach us about pain and our
Mm-hmm.
suffering, and the ways in which we, yeah, manipulate
Yeah.
as well. So there's all these layers that I want to take women through, like this kind of evolutionary journey of baby seductress to mature woman to devotion and compassion, this thread. Yeah. So those are those are my main archetypes, but there's so many that are integrated. Like last night I did a class on the maiden, a 3-hour class, and that was really deep and beautiful, and connecting women to the slowest parts and their sensitivity,
Mm.
and all these things live inside of me as well. So I probably need to step more into my like CEO. I was laughing with my friend on the weekend. We were like CEO energy, but I have a lot of like resistance around the one woman CEO.
Yeah.
Energy. Like I really would love a collective of women.
Yeah, I can see that for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so lonely, just like churning our work out. And it's also something I've had to do for the last while. But yeah, I would love to work in a collective of women.
Yeah. Yeah. And just hearing you say that, can I tell you what's going on in my mind? I'm getting flashbacks to all of the photo shoots that you've done over the years, where there was you and women around you. And it's like,
Mm.
yes, like I completely get how you needed to maybe pause some of that sense of collectivity in your work and in your life in order to go deep on yourself. And now you've got more bandwidth to get back to that, the power of the collective and the power of the collective in your work. I can see that for you.
Yeah. And I think also it's so many of like my friends, we're all individuated CEOs of our business, and we're
Yeah.
all working in similar fields, but totally different flavors.
Yep.
And I would just love for us all to come together. I think it would
Yeah.
just force, but I don't know how to do that yet. We talk about it sometimes, but I think there'll come a point when we get really serious about it. Like, hey, how do we make this like collective so that we can move together?
Yep.
We're all kind of like fighting for doing God's work, doing God's work.
Yeah. The goddess's work.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is life keeping you on more of a solo path at the moment to learn? Is there something else? Do you suspect there's something else for you to receive or gain from being a sole operator and maybe accessing more of that CEO energy, like your solo CEO energy? That's what I'm wondering. If it hasn't happened yet, what is there something else for you to learn? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's some completion parts that I'm having to work with. So I basically I was working with people. I had like a different assistants come in and work, and it was really testing for me because I would struggle. Like I'd give them a task and then they'd go and do it, and then it was like easier for me to just go in and correct things than actually give them guidance. So I was learning all these little kind of lessons of like, oh, that's not what you do, Shaney. Like you have to take the time to be with people and train them and just get overwhelmed. Anyway, that was a few years ago. And I've worked with a few different people. And then I just decided when I went off Mighty Networks, which was an absolute disaster, it's been a very expensive, disastrous transition into Kajabi, which I'm not very happy about. When I moved, I also decided to dismantle my business and really get to know it from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of outsourcing these roles onto people, I was like, I need to get really intimate with what it is that I'm doing here. And so that's what I've been doing. Like I have all the women that I work with, they're all in spreadsheets now that I'm manually putting together, and I'm like really taking notes. And at the moment I'm doing all these like free 20-minute calls to get to know my audience, because I feel so distant from my audience through just social media platforms. And whereas, because Mighty Networks was a really great community hub, it was like, oh, everyone was kind of in this one place, but there was these other things missing from that platform, which is why I moved to Kajabi.
Yeah.
But Kajabi has a terrible community section. Like I just cannot find a vibe. So then everything's dismantled into Telegram, this and that. And I'm ADHD. Like I could multitask, but that kind of multitasking is like, it's just, I'm not great at it. So my current issue right now is how to bring my community together and activate it, because I'm not innately a community person. I'm not innately a networker. So I need these platforms to really support me to make that process easy. And I'm hitting some massive with what's available. So I feel like I'm having to meet all of these parts of my business, and it's taking longer than I would like, but it's allowing me to get really clear on what I want my business to feel like. Everything's a mess because I also had my website stolen and turned into a porn site. So, you know, my systems are just like quite chaotic at the moment. So I'm on this solo path to like clean all of this up, get really clear, and then I feel like I can kind of do a relaunch with a clearer vision of what I'm in service to as well.
Yeah. I didn't realize you had your website stolen. How did you energetically navigate through that one?
Well, I mean, I'm just like, whatever. That's the point I'm at. Like, people were like, oh, you need to get your name back. Like, that's, bad associations for you. And I'm like, cool. And I don't have the capacity or the energy to be like trying to work out how to do that legally or no. So the way I'm navigating it is I've just brought a different domain for now. And I'm just hoping that whoever I don't know if this person's like someone that hates me, because I'm not like a massive big gun or anything that would make me a target. Like I'm just this kind of little person over here on the internet, just like flailing around. So I don't understand why they chose me to do that. And it's like 3 years in as well. So they're paying for that. I don't get it.
It always feels like everything's being stirred up for you, questioned, brought up into closer examination so that you can reset some of the foundational pieces of your business and really forge the legacy for yourself. Like everything's being, what systems am I using? And I'm bringing this up because I want to normalize this for anyone listening that feels like, why isn't this working? Why is this person not working with me? Why isn't it working when I've got this VA? Things like this come up in business so that you can really question and examine, A, how well is it working? And B, is this coming with you into the next chapter? Because if you want expansion, when I use the word expansion, what I mean for myself and those I work with is depth. If you want to expand or if you want to go deeper, you need to be held, which is exactly what you're speaking into right now, especially where you don't have a natural inclination for something or for an aspect of business. If that's true, like if you want to be in communities and hold one but not do all of the heavy lifting, that means that you need a heavier lifting system or structure to hold that. So what I'm sensing is you've just had everything come up for question. Is this working? How well is this holding you? How well is this holding your clients? And now you get to make really empowered decisions about what's coming with you, what's being left behind, because you've got this sense that the bigness is coming.
Totally. Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah. There's so many things. And I think that also if you don't have those foundations, because I'm a person that kind of does trigger people on a small capacity, I can feel that if I don't have my systems in place, if I grow bigger, this is a part of my like limitation. I don't want to grow bigger,
Yeah.
currently, because I know that bombs will start coming for me.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to handle it. Like the website being stolen turned into a porn site. Like that's a type of bomb, right? Like someone's
Yeah,
just like,
that's a major bomb.
yeah, yeah. And it's like things are going to happen the more out I am.
Mm.
And I want to feel held and protected
Yeah.
in that process. And so I can feel the part of me that's just like, not yet, not yet, not yet. You know, just keep churning a bit, keep learning. And it's not only in business. These questions have been showing up. And I did like 12 years of 3 back-to-back relationships with literally no space in between each relationship.
Mm.
And so I was choosing these relationships with this like undercurrent of anxiety about who am I going to have a baby with. And then I came out of my last one, which was massive. And I was like, finally, I need to be with myself. I need to sit with myself. And I've really started to move out of this like nervous system pattern of like choosing things from my anxious self. But in that process, I also, my sexuality expanded to what it had always been. But because my anxiety was choosing relationships because of baby, baby, baby. So then I started dating women. And so then I started to question like, oh, maybe am I going to marry a man or a woman? Like, what? Just like, and I was like, oh my God, I've got more options. Like this, like, the options just keep expanding. Like,
yes.
what like is going on? So here I am in my narratives being like, simplify, Shaney, get steady, simplify. And then my life is just like expanding in these places.
Diversified. It's diversified. The
like,
option.
I'm like in a candy store, you know, I've just got so many options. And they're also such different flavors. And anyway, so questioning relationship, sexuality, marriage, children, like what am I going to do if I don't have a child? Oh, okay, I'll just like commit to the path of the bodhisattva. Like, you know, I'm creating these like backup plans of like, I'm just going to go hard in Buddhism. So all my coping strategies to be like, all right, where's life taking me? You know, now I'm living from the mystery. Like I can only see one step ahead. Yeah, life going. Yeah.
I would love to know. I love your laugh, by the way. You've got such a beautiful laugh. And I was going to ask you, just a lot of the work that I do is around activating women to be in their power and pleasure, namely through their throat and sacral center and the symbiotic nature of those two centers in a woman's body. And I'm wondering what changes you've seen in your clients when you witness an activation of those centers in a woman, the sacral and the throat.
Yeah.
Just what your take is on them.
Big question. Gosh. Well, I mean, that absolutely intrinsically connected. A lot of women that come to work with me also have fears of public speaking, fears of using their voice, because it's perfect because I had that. You know, I used to I used to force myself into running events, and then I'd be like on the couch crying for 2 days because I was so ashamed of things I said. And, you know, I'd just be a collapsed mess because using my voice was such a deep insecurity.
Yeah.
So I was the person in my learning years, like always learning years, but when I was doing my early trainings, I would be in a group and I couldn't ask a question. It's like my heart would be beating, I'd be in terror. And if I tried and I spoke, I would just be so disassociated and like sweaty. And so I've had this massive journey with my voice. And so, yeah, people come to me, they mirror that. You know how your clients mirror you?
Yes. I mean, no, I have no idea. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. They mirror you. They're in an experiencing that you've had. I mean, the timeline could be anything. It could be you X amount of years ago, you a few months ago. But yes, there's always a mirror there.
Yeah. 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 And then I think with, you know, the pelvic bowl, the womb, all the womb mysteries work that I've done, I think that was the place that was already quite naturally activated for me, quite young.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also being a stripper, there was a lot of churning of the hips. And I was the kind of stripper that I stayed in my pleasure in the work. Like I wasn't really not in it. There was always an activation inside my pelvis. And even as a tantrika doing body work, I'll stimulate my pelvic floor just to get energy moving in the field, because it shifts the field, how connected I am to my body and my pelvis. So what's the question? Actually,
I would love to know now, how did your throat evolve over the years? Because you are so beautifully expressed, whether you're speaking or the incredible, mind-blowing written words that I see and experience from you. They're deeply poetic. They're really moving. They're truth-telling. They move people, visibly move people. I'm just wondering, how did you start to feel more comfortable at ease within your own throat?
Like putting myself in it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like,
everyone, there's the answer. You have to put yourself in it. There is no easy way around this one.
There's no shortcut with this. Like, I think that being practiced at being in my body and seated in my power and my eros definitely gave me like a advantage.
Yeah, agreed.
Right?
Yes,
because it's like a rocket fuel. So there's this like passion. But it's been a lot of hard work, to be honest. Like from the early days of putting myself out on Facebook, where I would just practice sharing, which was terrifying. When I watch back to some of my videos in my early 20s, I'm like, oh, who is that girl? She's so scared. And and so like trying scripted and contrived. It's just like this whole persona.
Little shady.
I had to be that awkward person. I had to keep showing up. And my writing, like I look back on my writing and it's like so superficial and so lacking in depth. And I used to have this like thing where I was like, I feared that I wasn't deep. I remember having that process in group, group calls and things like, oh, this like insecurity that I'm not deep. But it was that I just didn't know how to put words to my depth, to everything I felt. And so I had to practice and churn and be disliked online and say really stupid things and be a troll, even being a troll online, which is still something I'm trying to reel it in. I'm really trying to reel it in because I can just get so trolly in the online space.
Your troll archetype.
Even that part of me has helped sharpen my consciousness. And then sometimes I think, oh my God, like do I need to like go through my entire history online and start to delete things? Because is this going to backfire on me? Because some of the things that I've said anyway, but it's all been a part of the practice. And like I said, I used to force myself to run events, not force in the sense of complete overriding, but there definitely was some overriding of my slower parts that I've had to come back and tend to, for sure. But I always had this like greater vision of commitment to where I wanted to get to, which was I've always wanted to feel relaxed in how I share and how I be and who I am, and really like love myself in this. And I've always felt had this like real deep service piece that I think I just came in with, where I'm like, oh, it's really important to me that the world, that I participate in changing something, not changing the world. That's that's not what I mean, but changing something, like changing consciousness to some degree through my presence. And to do that, I really need to be this woman who can share her truth. Is willing to be disliked for it, and who's willing to learn how to vocalize and write better, which that's in the past. Then there's no shortcut.
No shortcut.
You have to go through it.
You
have to go through the fire of it and get uncomfortable, get real uncomfortable.
deeply uncomfortable. And I want to highlight something that you referenced earlier, which was around like releasing the perfection around it. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to generate perfect things. It's really is this practice that you keep generating and being willing. You might not want to. It's the big consent question, isn't it? You might not want to, but are you willing? Are you willing to experiment? Are you willing to put your voice out there? Are you willing to put your voice out there imperfectly and to start crafting more of your truth through those learning experiences? Because it's until you put it out there, there's something different about writing something down that only you see and writing something down where you're not sure it's how it's going to be received out there. There's a deeper learning in that.
Totally. And sometimes like I'll post something and I'm so surprised at how people respond versus some of the things that I'm like, this one's going to, and this one's amazing. And then there's like, it's crickets. And then I put something else and I'm like, oh my God, I almost didn't share that one because it was so lame.
God, I totally know what you're talking about. So I'm just shocked. I'm like, how many profile views from that thing about that little thing that very little human thing I shared? I'm like, oh, when I look at the analytics, it's incredible, isn't it? That you can see people's behaviors and responses, their public responses and their private actions. When you look behind the scenes, it just astounds me still what people like and what draws them in. Yeah.
And just don't get it. And you're probably more like, look at the analytics. I don't even look at that stuff because I'm so confused by the online spam. I'm just going to keep bringing it. Just keep bringing it. See what hits. And then, does it convert? Fails is basically my measure.
Yeah.
But, it would do me some good to start to study more of, okay, what angles for landing more, and it feels so overwhelming to even start to unpack all of that.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, that one's a practice as well. That's just something that I've integrated, especially, well, I think what I see in your work is I see the public responses. Mine's a bit more, people don't necessarily respond publicly, so I need to look at, because they are inhibited around all of this. And so I'm looking at what they do privately to see what's landing from that angle. If it's something where they don't feel they might not feel comfortable publicly commenting, stuff. I do like the analytics for just seeing what I can from people's behavior behind closed doors. I like having a peek back there.
Yeah, no.
But I just love what you said about your throat and the fact that it is a muscle that you have to just keep expanding through speaking, through writing, through speaking, through writing, through speaking, through writing, speaking, through writing, through sound as well. We haven't even mentioned sound in today's episode, but sound is another portal.
Yeah. I've been on a real big journey recently of like connecting more to my sound, been doing singing lessons and things that, I always as a kid wanted to do. Yeah, just for me, like not for anyone else. But because I have this insecurity around my voice, I really have to. And I think this is what happens as well. When we have an insecurity about something, we work really hard, if we have will, we work really hard to correct it. Yeah. And then we become very skilled in that area. When people say, oh, I love the way you talk and you're so eloquent and you have these words, I'm like, I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Like I've got friends that just have this amazing vocabulary and I'm like so in envy of them. And then people say that to me, I'm like, really? Like I feel.
You do. You're deeply poetic. You really are a wordsmith. You've got a beautiful way of expressing yourself, and that's something I want to compliment you on. I've witnessed the evolution of that over the last 10 years as well. It's absolutely beautiful. Like you really just strike this chord, and my birth chart or my, Myers-Briggs, all of that, it's all very much everything has to be deep and intense. And I'm scrolling through Facebook and there's horrible ads and then I see your words and I'm like, it's seriously like sinking into a spa or jacuzzi or something. It's like, yes, home life.
Codes. I'm at the code.
So lush, so needed. And look, I have so much more I could ask you, but I'm mindful of time and energy. And I would love to know, well, before we wrap it up, is there anything that you would like women who have their own business to know about their most sensual selves, their most erotic selves, their most seductive selves, the temptress part of them? Is there anything that you want them to know about how that can be integrated when you have a business?
Well, these feminine mysteries that I teach on is all about really like the feminine to me is the electromagnetic current of life. And so when we connect to our bodies and we generate energy in our bodies, the electromagnetic current activates, and this is how we become magnetic. So I think as feminine business leaders, if you don't have a commitment to somatic work, and not only somatic work, but like sex, like sexuality and word codes, right? If you're scared of those parts, then you're going to be operating your business from a very kind of push, mask, old world place.
Yes.
And what I would love to see, because I would love to see the feminine represented more in these places that have been more traditionally masculine, I would love to see more women acknowledging that this is essential, that having a connection to my soma, having a connection to my inner world, having a connection to my pelvic bowl, my heart, all of this creates a field of energy around us, and then we become transmissions of our essence, right? So if you're not already committed to that work, start now. If you feel that you're scared because it's like, ooh, like sexuality, edgy, like, or taboo, or, you have these like beliefs in all the stories that people have, I think it's doing a great disservice to you as a feminine or a female leader.
Yep.
And also it's doing a great disservice to the world and future generations. And we want to get healthy in these places. We want to get healthy in our sexuality and our heart portals. There's so much disconnect from sex and heart, and it's creating a lot of distortion in the creative field where people are, just like sexual liberation, kind of overdrive and disconnected from sensitivity and all of these. There's so many like things that are distorting in the field that I think could be just really corrected if we just got some more alignment in these places in our bodies. So that's my wish for any woman listening, to be like, okay, I'm going to prioritize my learning with these parts of how feminine sexuality is most nourished and most activated. And it's not about vibrators.
Yes. Yes.
It's not about this hypersexual, explosive relationship to, masturbating every day to a point of peak. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about very subtle, deep connection to the aliveness of Eros inside of us, and allowing that to fill us and pulse through us. Open our bodies.
Open our bodies. And when we're open and our bodies are open, our business can open in new and exhilarating ways as well. They are symbiotic.
Totally.
Yeah. Thank you deeply for your presence, Shaney. I'm just wondering, where can listeners find you online?
Well, obviously I don't have a website. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I am working at getting a new website up. You can find me on WhatsApp. You can find me Yeah, I think just reaching out through, like, making your presence known to me is really beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. It's really powerful. Yeah. Send Shaney a message on Instagram and let her know what landed from today's episode and maybe even what you're going to pledge to explore within yourself from listening today, because that accountability piece is everything, and it will change how you experience your body, your eros, your throat energy, all of it. So reach out to Shaney, say hi.
Yeah.
Deep Bows, thank you so much for being here today, and I've deeply enjoyed our time together. Didn't get through all the questions, but I trust this was such a rich conversation, and there's always more with you, Shaney. So thank you again.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
I trust that this episode has whet your appetite to add more precision to your power. If you're naturally left wanting more, head to laurenwhite.com.au/private to learn exactly how you and I can work together. And if you yearn to give a little back after crushing on the podcast, share it privately with your favorite woman in business, or hit subscribe and leave a captivating review so that more women can access the inevitability of a white hot business.